What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy Myles, aka Little Gap, here with my boy Yohannes, aka King Tesfai, back to cut for another episode. So let's get straight into it. Yohannes, we was just talking off the record about the NBA Finals matchup. Since we in the middle of it, well, almost at the end of it, I should say. Um, Last time we made our predictions, I believe you were on the side of Phoenix and I was on the side of Milwaukee. And as of today, Sunday, July 18th, after game five, it looks like Milwaukee's up 3-2. I would love for that to go to seven, but man, after the play that I saw that Drew Holiday made, stealing the ball from Devin Booker to get a lob pass and transition to Giannis to seal it, man, I don't know. They look like they took a commanding 3-2 lead, bro. Think about this. They are one game away from winning the NBA Finals for the first time in 50 years. And Johannes, what do you think about that, man?
Unfortunately, Myles is always right. I can't even back up the whole statement of Suns winning in six, man. That's obviously not gonna happen. I don't see him winning, bro. Game six, like you said, in Milwaukee, they haven't won it
Mm,
in 50 years. And the last time they won it was with Kareem, who doesn't even think that the Bucks were gonna win it this year, man. Yo,
that's crazy.
first off, like you said, man, Drew Holiday, man, that steal and that three. Well, before I even continue, what was better, the steal or the three? Like what was better?
I would say the lob pass
That lob
definitely
pass.
because I,
Yeah.
I, I was able to see footage from that from the ground level, and oh my god, the whole crowd went silent, bro. Just
Man,
the whole building was just in shock because they couldn't believe what they just saw, and I couldn't believe what I had seen. It's crazy,
it's crazy.
but if you think about it, um, the Bucks definitely weren't one of those teams that at the beginning of the year that we thought were going to be in contention to take it all. And just think about by this time or at the beginning of the season when we all thought, oh, it's going to be the Lakers, it's going to be Brooklyn back, it might be Philly, it might be the Clippers, and two completely unforeseen teams in the small markets just showed up and showed out. And I'm so happy for this for basketball, for number one, and for two, it just makes things more interesting. I'm gonna give you a stat really quick, my man, and let me tell you guys. If you guys didn't think Giannis was one of the best players in the league in the history of the league after this finals, you might after I tell you this. So if they were to win this next game, Giannis would have been a two-time MVP, five-time All-Star, 2021 All-Star Game MVP, three-time All NBA First Team, two-time All NBA Second Team, 2020 Defensive Player of the Year, three-time NBA All Defensive First Team, one-time NBA All Defensive Second Team, a 2017 NBA Most Improved Player of the Year, 2014 NBA All Rookie Second Team, and a Euroscar Player of the Year in 2018 at 26. If he wins, they're for sure going to give him the NBA Finals MVP, no doubt. But just to throw this topic in there, where would he place in your all-time ranking at that point if they were to complete this mission?
Hey man, top 15.
Top 15?
I'm going top 15, man. What about you?
Man, with that kind of resume, I will put him at, yeah, I'd have to say top 15, but man, I don't know. I want to put him in my top 10 now. Like that changes a lot. That's a huge resume, dude. Not a lot of people that can say that they've done that. I mean, granted, he's only 26. And there's players that are like Kobe and Shaq. Well, not Shaq, but Kobe that have completed way more in a way shorter amount of time. But I mean, considering his background, his story, coming from overseas, and back then it was stigmatized, and people considered that type of upcoming, weak, and they didn't think to give people respect that came up out the mud, and this man literally came up out the out the mud. I don't know if there's ever been a player that's won most improved player of the year and an MVP. And if he possibly wins a final MVP, I think he would have been the first to do it, bro.
You got a good point, man. And everything he's done. And you got to, no disrespect to Chris Middleton. I mean, averaging 25 and 7 in the finals, but he's going to win a championship without an all-star technically because Middleton was an all-star this year. So winning a championship without an all-star, that's tough to do in today's NBA, man.
It sure is. Everybody teams up now, and you know, I mean, the resume and the stats speak for themselves. This man Giannis is averaging like 34, 35 in the finals. That's historically all time great. So people got to move him up on the list. If they don't, then they're crazy.
Let me ask you
But
this though.
yeah, go ahead.
You make a good point, and like you said, between us, you were the one who picked the Bucks, and I should have been smart with that pick because Milwaukee, this whole playoffs, they've trailed 2-0 or 0-2 to Brooklyn, came back, made adjustments. We're down 0-1 to Atlanta, made adjustments. Now in this scenario, going to Game 6 in Milwaukee on Tuesday, I believe, right? The momentum's going to be with them. They're going to have tens of thousands of people outside of the arena getting ready to play. But what does Phoenix need to do in order to shape things up? Because even though Milwaukee does have the edge going to this game, winning 3 straight games against Phoenix, I don't think Phoenix can go out like that. And, you could tell by that post-game interview with Devin Booker and CP3, they're ready to go. Like, they're ready to, prove themselves again and bring it back to Phoenix for Game 7.
Well, ultimately, they need to be themselves. CP3 needs to be the player he was in the Western Conference Finals. Limit those turnovers because in the last couple of games, he's had more turnovers than he had in the entire playoffs leading up until the finals. So the defense is more pressing. They've adjusted and matched up better against him, but he has to be that point god that we all expect him to be. And Devin Booker has to step. He needs to be more consistent. And when the spotlight gets on him, he needs to just show up. And the real key here, though, man, is DeAndre Ayton and um, the rest of the role players. Miles Bridges has to be that player that he was, dropping 27 on them. Um, Cameron Payne, he needs to be himself. He needs to be the player that he can be. And DeAndre Ayton needs to be averaging like 20 and 10. He should have been. He needs to be that kind of player in order for them to win. And he has to basically do all the dirty work and guard Giannis to the best of his ability and stop him. But everybody was talking about him not having no mid-range game, and he has showed everybody that he can score at the top of the key at the elbow. And I gotta say, man, like it's got to be a battle. In order for them to win, I feel like Monty Williams has made great adjustments so far, with the exception of that game where they were getting kind of blown the hell out, and he put Devin Booker on the bench, tried to rest him up for the rest of the game, or for the next game. And I feel like if they're able to make the right adjustments, DeAndre Ayton steps up, the role players step up, and then the superstars do their thing, then we could be going to a potential Game 7. I still don't know who's going to win this game as much as Milwaukee has the momentum. Like I always said this in the beginning, I feel like it's going to be 7 games. And if Phoenix can manage to steal one, which they can, then we'll see. I can't tell you who's going to win it because it's just been back and forth. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an OT game. I'm calling it. There's going to be an OT game in one of these next 2 games, potentially.
In one of these, yeah, I was gonna say in one of these next 2 games, hinting there might be a Game 7 with Phoenix winning on Game 6. But the thing is, last 2 games, last 2 games, I mean, Phoenix has only lost by 3-4 points. I mean, it's been minor, you know, deficits. But the thing is this, like you said, Ayton needs to be more aggressive, man. I mean, he's averaging, I think, 15 or 16 points a game. And he needs to be dominating the boards. I mean, I get you get Brook Lopez down low, Giannis down low, but you just got to attack, man. He was doing his thing against Jokic, against AD when, they're playing the Lakers. He needs to continue that. I mean, you're right at the end. The end is there. The championship's right in front of you. And CP3, man, listen, averaging 54% from the field in the finals. I think 52% from 3, which is great. But he needs to be more aggressive, man. He needs to be more aggressive with, offensively. Because you look at the Bucks, the reason why they're winning is Middleton has stepped up. Drew Holiday had a 20-point, 10 plus assist game last night. Phoenix needs help on the offensive end. I mean, D Book is dropping 30 plus, 40 plus every game. You don't see anybody else really aggressively, helping the Phoenix Suns score. Like you said, Bridges, campaign, everybody needs to step up. Before we made a predictions, I even said that the role players need to step up in order for the team to continue their success. But like you said, man, adjustments need to be made. I still think I need to tweak it up. I know Milwaukee's going to win Game 6. There's no way in heck they're going to lose in Milwaukee in front of all those fans with Yohannes and all these boys winning 3 straight. They got that momentum. The championship is going to be right in front of them after 48 more minutes. They got to seal the deal, and they will seal the deal.
Hey, man, as confident as you are about them winning at home, I said the same thing about Phoenix and how they were going to trade home games. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Phoenix were to steal one at their house. But if it happens to be like that, at least they'll be home and be able to celebrate on their home floor. We haven't been able to see that in a while. But that's excellent topics. But if we want to move on to this, some more basketball happening overseas, over in Tokyo soon. There's a big thing we got to address, my man. Basketball for us is, synonymous with apple pie and consumerism. So the fact that we have seemingly had our weaknesses exposed, the NBA world, the basketball world has been put on notice since the USA dropped, was it 2 or 3 games? They lost to Nigeria in the exhibition match, and they lost to Australia in the exhibition match. And, I always knew it was a matter of time before the rest of the world caught up. But what do you think it is, man? What needs to happen if we're going to dominate in the Olympics?
Team basketball, man, it really comes down to that. It's Team USA, so we got to integrate that first part, team, right? I mean, we got the talent. I mean, everybody wants to say that, like, we don't have, superstar caliber players on the team like LeBron James, a la, Kawhi, whatever. But we still have better, talent than other teams overseas. It's just that other teams have been playing with each other for years. I mean, you look at Luis Scola, man. This guy's been in the Olympics for like 4 or 5 straight times, and we got a lot of newbies on the team. But I mean, it's only been 2 games. They did blow out Argentina the next game. But I think they just got to play team basketball, man. I mean, everybody is a stud on the team. They, offensively gifted. They just got to play together, come as a team, come as a unit, which I think they will. Booker, Middleton, Holiday, they're on the way, after the finals. But, bro, we got to talk about this, man. I'm going to let you discuss your, opinion as well. But JaVale McGee. Listen, I'm assuming they brought him in for defensive purposes or whatever, because that was their weakness, in the first few games. But Trae Young, quote unquote, matched the criteria, going back to the last dance that he did tweet the other day. And he didn't get in. JaVale McGee, who doesn't even play any minutes for the Cleveland Cavaliers, not even with the Denver Nuggets either. JaVale McGee.
Hey, that's on the committee, man. For whatever reason, and you could tell Kevin Love, he always shows his emotions. That's why he said, "Nah, I'm getting out of here. It's not looking good." He didn't want to waste his time. He didn't want to be traveling and dealing with that. It's interesting that they picked JaVale, like you said, for defensive purposes. I think it'll be good for him. I think it's honestly not a terrible pick, for one, because of the way that the international rules work. It's a lot more, you have to be a lot smarter. And, as much crap that people give JaVale, he's a vet, and he knows, he can do his research and study and know that the rule changes are going to, make things a little bit more difficult. So on the defensive end, I think he's going to be excellent. Now, being that the refs are not going to call all these fouls, they're at that point, all of these players are going to be responsible for getting their buckets on their own talent and strength, and not at the free throw line. So I think it all just comes down to experience, really. Number one, determination, playing as a team, being that you're representing your country and you know that, there's a certain precedent that comes with playing with Team USA. And number three, it's going to be, it's honestly just going to be skill and talent. These players are, these teams from other countries, they're caught up because they have players that are in NBA. You look at it, Australia had about 5 NBA players. I want to say Nigeria had about like 3 or 4, and you know, Argentina had Luis Scola, and they had Campazzo, and I can't remember the other cat's name, but the rest of the world has caught up. So they can't just rock through these teams. They have to play like they're honestly playing for in the finals. As crazy as that sounds, this is supposed to be kind of an off season, work, but like they have to play like a championship is on the line. And if they don't play like that, they're not going to even. I say they get knocked out second round if they don't play with that kind of mentality, because we have a target on our backs.
So,
We
so
have
let
a
me
huge target on our back.
let me ask you this. Let's say hypothetically, let's say they get bounced in the second round. Um, what adjustments need to be made? Should it be similar adjustments like what they did in '04 when that collapse happened when they won the bronze and then they had to bring in, you know, superstar players and say, hey, look, we need to be back on that stature of winning gold, every time we're in the Olympics, or what adjustments do you think would have to be made if we came up short this year?
Um, I definitely, well, it all depends on how the players feel. That's the first thing about it. If these players don't feel, if they don't feel encouraged, or if there's enough incentive for them to go and play overseas um, for like a month or two at a time, and if they don't see, like, if they don't have enough pride, like, and I'm referring to, when I say players, I mean the superstar players. If they don't feel like it is necessary for them to go, and in spite of their NBA season, if it interferes with their NBA success, then they're not going to do it. Um, and I think that all this year, especially, it all boils down to injuries. A lot of these players, you couldn't get a Donovan Mitchell. He would have been perfect. He played last year. He's got experience. You couldn't get a Klay Thompson. He's not trying to play no games. You didn't get a Steph Curry because all these players are recovering. So that's number one. Number two, um, if we don't have the, you know, the proper team um, galvanism with this whole thing. If the coaching, because Mike Krzyzewski is not coaching there anymore, and he's one of the all-time greatest coaches. If they, which is crazy to think about, we've had one of the greatest teams ever assembled with one of the greatest coaches ever. And if we didn't get a head coach, I believe Greg Popovich, if he's not able to galvanize these guys and cats to play to their potential, because if you think about it, um, everybody's in the NBA on our squad. Not everybody can say that. That alone is not going to get us to the gold medal, but it should definitely get these guys to snap out of it. Be like, yo, we have the most loaded roster out of every country. There's no excuse. And I think ultimately, if they're not able to put two and two together, it's not going to work out. But if they are able to do that and everybody's healthy next year, then it could work out. Or not next year, excuse me, within the next 4 years. We'll see who's a superstar by then.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Tatum will always be a superstar, 4 years from now, 8 years from now, 12 years from now, etc. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure,
agree.
yeah, and I'm sure he'll carry this team, like he always does, carries the Celtics, he will carry this team USA. He'll carry KD and all of them, that are slacking and,
You think
when
you
it's that
think
goal.
Tatum's
But
gonna backpack for KD?
I
Oh, that's
mean,
hilarious.
I mean, he did give him that 50 piece in the first round, when the whole entire game on his own against the big three of Brooklyn that came up short in the second round. But listen, I agree with everything you said. I mean, we're the most talented team versus every other country that's, playing right now, regardless of if people want to think that we're not putting our best players out there. Um, but they got to come as a unit, new coach, new players. new adjustments. We got, most of these guys never played, overseas basketball, so they're not used to that basketball, that Olympic basketball that they play with, and just everything. I think they'll come together and be fine. I mean, I don't see any issues. But talking about superstars 4 years from now and seeing who's going to be talented, we got the NBA draft coming up soon. Detroit first overall pick. Cleveland, I don't know how they always get a top 3 pick. I know they're pretty trash, but they got a number 3 pick. Toronto, I don't, they're gonna reconstruct, and all these teams that are trying to rebuild for the future. But look, hey man, we all know who the number 1 pick is gonna be. Let me ask you this, Miles: is Mr. Cade Cunningham the best option for the Detroit Pistons right now to draft?
Yes, and ultimately because in the draft, my strategy, I feel like for those lottery teams is always to just get the best player that you can, and I feel like Cade Cunningham is absolutely one of the best players in this draft just because his skill set is pretty much at an NBA level, and as much as I did not pay attention to college basketball this year, I gotta say I mean, think about it. Kate Cunningham is 6'8", 220, and can shoot the ball. That's something that's literally NBA standard. And I think Jalen Green, he didn't play for a college team, but I know he was on like Team USA. 6'6", 186. At that point, if they, I can easily say any player can match with Detroit because they need literally anything they can get because all they have right now is um, Jeremy Grant, and that's about it. That's the only player that I can honestly name off of their roster. But um, the top 3 players between that and then Evan Mobley out of USC, is about 7 foot. And he can shoot the ball too. They can honestly get any player that's going to make their team better. But I think by far Cade Cunningham, he's the most complete as far as like skill set and size. He's going to be taking up a lot of space, and ultimately, I think he could potentially be a really good role player. I could be eating my words by this time next year, and he could end up breaking out and being a star. But you know, I feel like it's going to end up being Cade Cunningham going first, just because they need the best possible player that they can get with the best talent. A lot of people are saying that they might go for Evan Mobley. I don't think that's a good idea, just because um, that type of player, it's he needs to be in the right system in order to succeed. And I feel like he needs to go to a team like possibly Toronto. They need to have somebody that like to help out Siakam and have some young fresh legs because they like to run the ball a lot up and down the floor. So between that and then Cleveland, they don't need any bigs, that's for sure. they, they don't need any more size. I think that they go for Jalen Green. I mean, they're stacked to top to bottom with guards too, but I feel like if they can run a faster pace game, they should be a lot better. Evan Mobley might actually, now that I think about it, might work better in that system to make an adjustment on the fly because of how he can run the floor and potentially spread the offense around. So those are just my predictions, just for the top 3. What do you think is the best for each of these teams, Yohannes?
No, I agree with everything you're saying. I mean, look, Toronto needs a big. That's what they were lacking all season. Um, so I think Mobley would be a great pick. Like you said, for Cleveland, they got undersized guards too. So I mean, Jalen Green would be a great fit. I mean, they got Jared Allen down low, which is great. Kevin Love is still in that team. I don't know what they're gonna do with him. Um, I mean, I feel like Cleveland low key could be a top 8 team if they get Jalen Green, if Kevin Love can stay healthy. I mean, they got talent on that
They
team.
were in playoff contention. And another player I didn't even mention, Jalen Suggs. He's a guard out of Gonzaga, I believe. If he is a player that they can have another wing, yeah, they could definitely make a push. At this point, the league is wide open. I wouldn't be surprised. But go ahead, bro.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think Cleveland in the first 2 months of the season, they were like a top 4 team, above 500. But I agree with Kate Cunningham. in regards to Detroit. I mean, Detroit needs just a star in that team. They need somebody. I mean, they, like you said, you can't name anybody. I had to actually Google some players on the team. They have Dennis Smith Jr., who's barely playing, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee. Um, and this is a Detroit team that has no culture. Every player that they've drafted, they've let go for nothing. Greg Monroe, Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, even though he wasn't drafted by them. But they got to figure out, who their star is going to be, assuming they get Cade Cunningham, build around him, create a culture around him, and just kind of go from there. Um, and most of these teams, like you said, they're rebuilding or try to revamp their roster. But we got a team that was in the finals for 4 or 5 straight years with two picks in the lottery, the number 7th pick and the number 14th pick. A superstar in Steph Curry, which Myles and I both got to see 2 months ago against his Lakers, and unfortunately LeBron hit a game-winning dagger over him. Klay Thompson returning from injury. James Wiseman returning from injury. Draymond, who's on the Team USA team, who's still getting his practice in. And according to some reports, he's actually working on his 3-point shot again. Who do they draft? What do they do with these picks? Do they draft players? Is there some players they should draft in the lottery, or is there a superstar player that they should go after? Package around Wiggins and these picks. What do you think, Myles? I mean, there's so many routes that they can go about.
Well, one player that I think with the 2 picks that they have in the first round, that they could definitely use um, to go ahead and get a wing, another wing to come off the bench. And I think that player is going to be Scotty Barnes out of Florida State. He's about 6'9", 227. And he has the tools, about 7'2" wingspan, bro. And he's got good technique, and he's solid. So I think they can go after him. And then another possible player is Jonathan Kaminga out of the Congo. It's about 6'8", 220. Um, 7-foot wingspan again. Again, if they get more size and more players that have that can hit shots outside, that's their bread and butter. If they can get players like that, oof, I don't know, man. We might be seeing them in the finals next year, and if these young cats can, keep up, or they can use them as trade bait, they can do so much with that. Honestly, I think what they might end up doing is just using those as trade bait, so they can get some more veteran players, because they're ready to win right now. Of course, they got the experience, they got the veterans, they got the superstars. So I think that's what the route they're going to end up going, just because they already have a young cat in James Wiseman. But if they're able to get some players and able to, we know that they can develop talent. So they're going to be fine either way, to be honest. I would hate to see them win the finals again, but if they do it, at least they won't do it with a Super Friends team. So, it'd be more organic, and I'd appreciate that more.
We want to see the teams that have always won to continue winning. These franchises like the Celtics, your Lakers, the Warriors, etc. So, um, hey man, listen, I agree with what you're saying. They develop talent, young talent, great, pretty well. I think if we bring back a whole healthy roster, I think a starting lineup of Steph Curry, Klay, Wiggins, Draymond, assuming he works on a shot, and Wiseman is a solid 5. Draft 2 young players off the bench. Jordan Poole is accelerating his game. If you can with the cap space, bring back Kelly Oubre off the bench. And just kind of go from there.
And
I mean, you still
one Toscano Anderson too. Don't put some respect on his name.
You put me
That
on.
man can
Yeah,
play.
you put me on. I'll never forget before that game when we watched the game, the play-in game back in May. You kept echoing his name, and then I actually started, observing him on the court, and he was hitting shots, doing his thing, and I was like, you know what, Myles needs to be an NBA scout, man. I don't know what he's I don't know, I don't know what these teams are doing, man. They need him. Detroit needs him.
Yeah, they definitely need whoever they can get. And that might even be one of those potential teams that they could build a package around. And if Detroit was smart, they could use those 2 extra picks. They could get some talent to develop. Well, not that they're good at that kind of thing, but they need players that have no ego, that are going to be patient and can develop. And honestly, I think building it from the ground up is literally the only option they have at this point. So
Let me ask you
um,
this. If Golden State was to make a trade for a player to win now, what player comes to your mind? I had 2 players that are relatively I wouldn't say easy to get, but maybe very attainable where you don't have to sacrifice both picks and maybe develop these players. Tyler Hero is a player that sticks out to me just because he's a
That's
catch and
interesting.
shoot player. Yeah, I just think he's a catch and shoot player that can kind of work well in that system where he needs kind of, I don't want to say revamp his career because he's only had a 2 year career, but I don't know where the heck he went last year.
Yeah, he disappeared this year. I don't know what happened.
He disappeared exactly, or maybe a two-way player, where you can package Wiggins in one of those picks to get. I don't know exactly who, but I don't know who's really out there other than Ben Simmons. Or
I know who. No, hell
we
no.
got we got to know. Hell no. I agree with that. Who's the player you're
No,
thinking of?
I mean he's on the market. I get that, but I wouldn't touch Ben Simmons with a yardstick right now. I would potentially get try to go for DeMar DeRozan just because of how solid his game is and how reliable, as a player. He's hardly ever been injured, and he's a very disciplined player, and I love his game. And then number two, I would say go after Spencer Dinwiddie because he could definitely help you out. He could ball and he can do whatever you need. He could shoot. He can offense, and he's got such great game. Another player that they could potentially go after, I think, since we're talking about shooters, is make a trade offer for Joe Harris because I don't know if the Nets are still sour after his poor performance in the finals, the playoffs. They could make a trade package and say, hey, give us Joe. We'll give you we'll give you some picks so you can potentially develop. They may not go for that because they want to win now, and they're not trying to develop talent, but they could make a trade package that deal and send it to somebody else to get a player themselves. I don't think that's something that they want to do, but I just think it would be really interesting with the idea of having two NBA 3-point champions on the same team. I just would love to see something like that. Just so outlandish, but that's just what I was thinking. I think definitely Spencer Dinwiddie is a player that they need to go after, though.
I like that. I like that DeMar Rosen statement you made, but is his three
Mm-hmm.
ball reliable enough to be on that Warriors? I don't want to say roster, but on that Warriors, gameplay that they have.
And that's a good question, and it's just definitely a respectable question. The reason I say DeMar DeRozan is because he is a mid-range game, um, grimy type of player. I don't think developing a 3-point shot would be anything difficult because just because of how skillful he is. I think having that player, I know it's not true to their play style, but having another player that's grimy that could potentially, be another point of the offense to have, maybe starting instead of Wiggins. I think it would be interesting to see just because I feel like they don't have that they don't have too many scrappy players aside from Draymond Green. But like I said, Spencer Dinwiddie, I feel like would be the more better fit just because he does have that outside game in him, and they're kind of interchangeable. So I think Spencer Dinwiddie would be a better fit, but DeMar DeRozan, I think he's looking for a new home and he wants to win now. That's why the reason, and he's a veteran, so that's the reason I would say he would be interested in going to the Warriors. Um, and yeah, I feel like he's gonna want to be on a different team because he's tired of being in San Antonio.
No, I agree. I mean, hey, Golden State has so many routes to go. They can get young players now, where their three best players or core players are above 30, and playing for their time when they do depart, and have players that'll be easy to develop and also can contribute right now, or like you said, get a veteran player on the team and make a 2.0 dynasty and make a run for the finals like they've been doing. But yeah, man, I mean, that's all the topics I got. I mean, there's so much going on in basketball right now. I'm glad that the finals, when it does end, we'll have Team USA to look forward to, and then a short off season, and then be right back in the NBA topics. Right back in the NBA season, and go from there.
Yeah, we got some off-season hoops to talk about with the Olympics, so we'll still be here with y'all, bringing y'all up to date and discussing everything going on in the basketball world. But with that being said, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate y'all watching this episode. Go ahead and if you did like this video, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe for the so you can stay up to date on the next video coming out. We'll put our socials in the comment section down below in the description. And with that being said, it's been your boy Lil Gap, King Tesfai. Take care, y'all. Wear your mask. It ain't over yet.